Hello everyone, this is Keen Bean. Welcome to part 1 of my 3-part series, A Short History of Analog Horror. In this series, we'll explore the eerie origins, creative evolution, and fascinating connections that make analog horror such a unique genre. If you love spooky static, unsettling nostalgia, and glitch-filled mysteries, you're in the right place. And if you want me to dive even deeper after this, let me know. I'd be happy to expand the series. Analog horror is a genre where imperfections, glitches, static, and warped sounds or images are not just design choices. They're the core of the experience. These distortions are eerie reminders that something is wrong, making you wonder, is it just faulty technology? Or is there something sinister lurking behind the screen? To understand how analog horror came to life, we need to look back at its foundation, from its early inspirations to its current forms. So, let's tune in, adjust the tracking, and dive through the static to discover the roots of analog horror. What does analog horror create a sense of dread? It draws from nostalgia but twists it into something dark and unfamiliar. Glitches, corrupted audio, and eerie interruptions are not just atmospheric elements. They are vital to the storytelling. This genre didn't appear out of nowhere. Its haunting aesthetic and fragmented narratives owe much to earlier forms of horror storytelling, particularly the found footage genre. Found footage set the stage by creating immersive, raw, and realistic horror, a framework that analog horror expanded upon in fresh and terrifying ways. The grandfather of analog horror, found footage. Found footage is at the heart of analog horror's storytelling DNA. This style presents recovered material, making it feel like you're watching something real and unfiltered. It creates a sense of voyeurism, which is a key element analog horror borrows. One of the earliest examples of found footage horror is the infamous Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. This film follows a documentary crew who go missing in the Amazon. When their footage is discovered, it reveals a gruesome and unsettling story. Its realistic style blurred the line between fiction and reality, so much so that the director had to prove in court that his actors were still alive. Though deeply controversial, Cannibal Holocaust introduced the idea of piecing together a narrative from fragments of lost media, a concept that later became a hallmark of analog horror. The Blair Witch Project, a game changer. While Cannibal Holocaust paved the way, The Blair Witch Project, 1999, brought found footage into the mainstream. This low-budget film tells the story of 3 filmmakers who vanish while investigating the legend of the Blair Witch. Its genius lies in what it doesn't show. There's no elaborate monster, just an oppressive atmosphere and raw footage that leaves everything to your imagination. The marketing campaign was just as groundbreaking. The creators blurred the line between fiction and reality by crafting fake police reports, missing persons posters, and a website that treated the events as real. This approach foreshadowed the cryptic clues and immersive experiences that analog horror would later embrace. Other found footage influences. While The Blair Witch Project is the most famous, other found footage films have also shaped the genre. Let's highlight a few key entries. The Last Broadcast, 1998. This film, which predates Blair Witch, follows a crew investigating the Jersey Devil. Its mix of folklore and found footage makes it a precursor to the themes explored in analog horror. Noroi, The Curse, 2005. This Japanese film uses a faux documentary style to tell a layered, supernatural story. Its fragmented structure and eerie realism are echoed in modern analog horror. Cloverfield, 2008. While primarily a monster movie, its chaotic, handheld camera style has influenced analog horror narratives about apocalyptic and cosmic threats. The role of aesthetics, glitches, and static. Analog horror stands out because it fully embraces the imperfections of analog technology. Found footage often simulates raw realism, but analog horror leans into the artificial quirks of outdated media. Glitches, distorted audio, and static aren't just effects, they're part of the horror. Why does this work so well? Part of it lies in nostalgia. For those who grew up with VHS tapes and CRT televisions, these sounds and visuals are familiar but unsettling. unsettling. They evoke memories of late-night static-filled channels or malfunctioning tapes. In analog horror, these imperfections suggest something hidden within the media, something waiting to be uncovered. Found footage tropes and their evolution. Found footage developed storytelling tropes that analog horror adapted and expanded upon. Here are some key ones. The Missing Crew. Stories of vanished filmmakers or investigators started with Cannibal Holocaust and continued with Blair Witch. Analog horror builds on this by introducing The Last Broadcast, corrupted media that reveals sinister secrets. Fragmented storytelling. Found footage often pieces together a story from incomplete recordings. Analog horror amplifies this by using out-of-order sequences or cryptic transmissions. Paranormal themes, ghosts, hauntings, and curses dominate found footage films like Paranormal Activity, 2007, and Noroi. Analog horror takes this further by adding a technological twist, haunted airwaves or spectral beings lurking in static. Unreliable technology. In found footage, broken cameras and degraded tapes heighten tension. Analog horror makes these glitches integral to the narrative, as if the medium itself is corrupted by the horror. The oversaturation problem. Both found footage and analog horror have struggled with oversaturation. After Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity, countless imitators flooded the market with shaky camera work and repetitive scares. Similarly, analog horror has faced criticism for relying too heavily on static and cryptic broadcasts. Yet both genres remain resilient. Found footage evolved with fresh entries like VHS 2012 and Host 2020. Analog horror continues to innovate with standout series like The Mandela Catalog and Local 58, which blend nostalgic aesthetics with modern storytelling, connecting the dots. Found footage and analog horror share a deep connection. Both thrive on the illusion of authenticity and immerse audiences in unsettling narratives. They use imperfections, shaky cameras, or glitchy visuals to build tension and keep viewers engaged. However, analog horror adds a layer of abstraction, making the medium itself part of the terror. The legacy of found footage. While found footage may no longer dominate the horror scene, its influence is undeniable. It reshaped horror by proving that immersive, low-budget storytelling could be just as effective, if not more so, than big-budget productions. Analog horror takes these lessons and pushes them further, creating surreal and fragmented nightmares that haunt audiences long after they end. Conclusion. That's it for part 1 of our journey through the static. From Cannibal Holocaust to the Blair Witch Project, found footage laid the foundation for analog horror. Its influence can be seen in the themes, aesthetics, and storytelling techniques that define the genre today. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of analog horror's roots. In part 2, we'll dive into the world of ARGs, alternate reality games, and their role in shaping the genre. Until then, this is Keen Bean, signing off. Don't forget to rewind your tapes, adjust the tracking, and maybe avoid static-filled channels. You never know what might be hiding there. See you next time.